This has to be about proving theorems with hot tea. And I don't know, qualifying examinations that exclude anyone who shows any sign of actually being able to make a measurable difference to the sum of human knowledge. And anti-inflammatory drugs that significantly increase your likelihood that you'll suicide. I only took one of those things and I was wrecked for 2 days. And it's got to be about noetic polity. If you can hold a nation together with literature, you could hold the whole world together with mathematics. But you need to cultivate the kind of environment where doing mathematics artfully is something that's valued. But if the higher education system is designed to partition students and is all based on getting money from students to teach them, that's not going to work. Thinking of Dijkstra saying in that lecture at Newcastle University that he wasn't allowed to talk about Galois connections. That's pretty damning evidence. Just after I joined the lab, when I started getting involved in supervising undergraduate students, Neil Dodgson redesigned the whole syllabus. And a lot of things stopped being taught. I'm surprised that lambda calculus was allowed. Jim Neal's attitude to it. He said to me once, what's the point of learning such a lame programming language? I don't know if he was serious or not. The guy is a joker. But my answer to students would be, if you can't learn this lame programming language, you're not going to be able to learn what you think is a non-lame programming language. If you can't learn lambda calculus, you're not going to be able to learn standard ML, and the student's just going to laugh, because what student wants to learn standard ML? They think that's another lame programming language. And it's not. Frank King was right. Standard ML is God's programming language. I don't know about higher order functors though. But all of my efforts in that monolith that I built, that's embedded, the source code is embedded in that Genesis PDF file. I hope that, yeah, Google Drive must just reproduce it so you can use PDF to doc to extract a tarball of all of that stuff. I called it Applying Functors Sideways, and I think it's very closely related to natural transformations. I think what I was getting at was using using functors as natural transformations, and composing monad interpreters fits into that quite well. So it's all there. And there are lots of these courses about category theory for programmers, and what we need is a programming for category theorists manual, which just shows you enough standard ML to enable you to build mechanical instantiations of categorical constructions, and standard ML will do that for you. It'd be great. But we need to be able to use standard ML as a model, a modeling language. So we need the standard ML environment to be something that's produced by a logical framework. And the JavaScript has almost been designed to do that. It's beautiful, really beautiful. And I don't think there's much missing, if anything at all, in the dynamic HTML model, JavaScript's dynamic HTML can implement a lot of what you need, and probably a big chunk of pi calculus. Boy, Robert Milner was good. I'm that guy. And the standard ML, the 1997 definition of standard ML is absolutely, it's a work of genius. Here's a black dog coming to. And the way to avoid ivory towers is not to keep people on the street. I really don't think that's necessary. I think the way to avoid ivory towers is to communicate and to provide people with tools to communicate. And we've got that stuff, we just need to do it. Oh. I don't understand. So my Euclid and commensurable in square only. The connection with gauge theories and co-algebraic models of spaces if you imagine a square grid of unit squares, if you join the diagonals, you get a 45-degree square grid of root 2 unit squares, and the diagonals of those are already joined by units of 2. So you can produce a grid and a 45-degree grid, and you can translate representations in a loop around that, which will produce a subdivision. It will produce a grid of binary decimal, point 1010111101. You keep subdividing the grid, and if you look at Wildberger's problems with Cauchy sequences and Dedekind cuts and equivalence classes of Cauchy sequences, you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm getting at, that when Euclid draws a unit, he doesn't say whether that unit is rational or irrational. The unit is just a unit. It can be any geometrical construction, and taking the diagonal of a unit square is a straightforward construction. So there's a framework there in which you can organize computation, and that idea of constructing arbitrary probability distribution functions out of uniform binary distributions has a place in there as well. And that's why that paper by Gibbons is interesting. And that subdivision process ought to sit nicely with using Bezier splines. As grids. And you should be able to do it all with integer arithmetic, so that you're never trying to represent intermediate floating point values with truncated decimal expansions and having to deal with error bars and things like this in the interior of your calculation. You only ever compute the necessary fidelity. You take it from you work backwards from the fidelity of the result that you need. And you can handle all sorts of problems with numerical instability and things with that change of basis. So that I did some stuff on using little differential equations to represent paths, printing text on paths and things. And that worked nicely. I need to learn some more JavaScript.